mates of Mark 1, you card crazy collectors. It's time to dust off your starter jackets, rip off those tearaways, blow into your game cartridges. I'm Simon Blandford.
And I'm Lucas Goodwin.
And I'm Pat Sellers.
And we wish it was the 90s. Today we're really excited to do a podcast on the 90s phenomenon that was basketball cards. You would have earlier heard the familiar sound of Pat's voice. But we have a very special guest today, a reveler in all things 90s, Lucas Goodwin. So welcome, Lucas.
Hey guys, it's nice to be here.
So we'll just get right into it. And by way of introducing Lucas, we'll give him the first bite at the cherry, as it were. First memories of cards and how we got into sort of liking basketball cards. So, Lucas, for you, what was that?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think the very first cards I collected were actually rugby league, potentially 92 era. Basketball, like NBA basketball, was massive at my school, Dyer Street School, and I think it was probably school. Everyone started collecting at the same time. My older brother collected and his mates, and I think it was just sort of like a culture. One person started and just everyone just hopped on board and started collecting. But it would probably be about 93, potentially late 92 when I started collecting basketball cards. That's pretty much it. And I've pretty much been off and on my whole life, gap, and then still collecting to this day.
Yeah, we'll have to, at the end of the pod, we'll have to have a chat about that, actually. That's what it's like now, maybe compared to then. So I'll just make a quick note so we can have a chat about that, because one of my colleagues actually at work, Bronwyn, she was saying her kids are big basketball card collectors. It's back apparently, so have to have a quick chat about that at the end. What about yourself, Pat? How'd you get into it?
That was quite interesting to hear about the old rugby league cards. Would have been ARL back in the day. That was sort of simultaneous. I still think that me and my brother have got a rubbish bag full of ARL early 90s cards somewhere at our parents' place, and it was part of life heading down Queen's Arcade there in the Hut to either the card store or Sports Den as well to pick up a pack and try your luck.
Or Kevin J. Drake, stamp collector as well. He was down there.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. But no, that was just it was part of growing up in the 90s. I had an older brother that screwed me out of many a deal over cards. But I think we'll probably get to that later.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there was a great walk down Queen's Arcade back then. The Kevin J. Drake reference, Lucas, did he sell sleeves, or am I making that up?
No, he did. He sold the Ultra Pro card sleeves all the way probably like 10 years after Card Crazy closed down. So I remember Cam Pollock used to go in there and buy them.
Yeah.
Just sleeve up his signatured cricket cards. So, yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I'll quickly touch on that rugby league thing. I'm pretty sure they, like many other cards that initially came onto the market, I think they were like bubblegum cards or something like that. You got them in bubblegum packs very, very early on, like maybe late 80s, early 90s. But for me, I guess, like Petone Central School, I guess if I'd known what drug dealing was as an 8-year-old, I would have thought that kids trading basketball cards was a bit like that. It was very surreptitious and secretive, like these little circles in various parts of the school of kids trading cards, wearing bum bags. It was very, very, very much like that. And as I think you guys alluded to, that basketball was already huge. I already love basketball. I'm sure that the cards sort of helped foster that love. Very glossy, very easy on the eye. And for sort of a 7 or 8, 9-year-old, it was just heaven, really. which I think, talking about
It's quite a good
sorry, go on.
introduction to the sport, eh? It sort of made you follow a little bit because you sort of started to learn about the players and read the stats at the back of the card. Very similar to your first PS1 game of NBA Live. I don't know what year it would have been.
Yep.
It actually sort of was quite a good introduction to the sport.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, we didn't actually get too much NBA showing on TV, and that you'd either have to have highlights, a VHS, or look at the back of cards to the stats to see if a player was like actually good. And I think that skewed my view on a lot of players. Like, I thought they were real good, and they were just terrible, and vice versa. So, because I didn't really know what the stats meant, back then.
100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. And I mean, compared to now, right? Like, I could just watch hours and hours of in-depth footage of any player in the NBA, pretty much, and you just had to survive on the stats on the back of a basketball card. And as Lucas said, like VHS, and I'm not even sure like that show NBA Action, that wasn't even in like until 95, 96 maybe. So it was a great introduction to the sport. I think that's spot on there, Pat.
Yeah, that would have been early Sky Sport, wouldn't it?
Yes, very early, and how much they would have had on, I don't know. I mean, surely there was some stuff on. I mean, Jordan's Bulls are massive, right? So there probably was some, but it was very, very limited. Lots of different options, actually. Surprising amount of different options, really, in the 90s in little old New Zealand. Lots of different brands and sets. Can we name a few?
Yeah, I can.
He had your flares, your upper deck.
Oh, upper deck. What was that one? Sorry, Lucas.
Collector's Choice, Tops, Flair spelt Flair.
Oh, two different flares.
Oh,
yeah. Skybox was big.
Skybox was big.
Skybox, that's good. Yeah, Top was also like a top with two P's. They were almost like ahead of their time. Like they were naming their companies like they were apps in the early 2000s.
Absolutely. I mean, do you know, like, I don't know about the prestigious ones. We always just got pretty cheap ones, really. So I don't think we ever had that many prestigious ones. I feel like Flair might have been pretty good, and I feel like Tops may have been the cheapest. Just having a quick look, but do you have any thoughts on that? I don't really know. I guess it depended on the set.
Well, for me, I didn't really remember what was meant to be better, but like you look back at them now, and you probably look at your Flair Ultras look pretty flash now, but I don't think you really paid attention at the time. It's probably how many coins you had in your pocket to get whatever pack.
Yeah, there was a couple of like I've actually got them on me. These are Flair Metal 95, 96. They were about $8 a packet back in the day.
Yeah.
And like they were very special occasion, sort of birthday, you'd get a pack potentially. And then there was this card here, the Skybox Emotion.
Wow.
They were $15 a packet.
Wow.
15
when they came back mid-90s. And 95 this one. And I never ever got a packet of those. That was just crazy money back then.
$15 a pack. That's a lot of cars being washed and lawns getting mowed to have enough pocket money to go down and get a pack.
Nagging mum.
A lot of hot news being delivered. Yeah, I think I remember NBA Hoops was another one that was kind of, I think it was like a subsidiary of Skybox or something, but that was another one. I also remember there was the 90, I looked this up, the 94, 90, that's a good one, Lucas. The 94, 95 Skybox Premium was real flash. It had like on the bottom right, it had the Skybox logo in gold, and it was like raised. And on the right-hand side, it was a column with the player's name, and it was in a real flash font. It was just it was very civilized, very posh looking. It was the opposite of a lot of them that were very glossy and trying to assault your eyes with color. But it was really, really, really classy card, the old 94, 95 Skybox Premium.
Yeah,
What?
Flair had a similar one. I've got my little folder that I've managed to dig out. Flair went with like almost like a matte finish. They were 97, 98. Yeah, can cast your eyes on that. It's like
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
almost
not
late. That's late. That's
a
late, Pat.
matte finish sort of straight photo. Yeah, that would have been right at the end of my career of collecting. Yeah,
Yeah, Tim Duncan. That's real late. Real late.
it's a Tim Duncan rookie.
I remember two sets that we had, and one was a my favorite ever set was a real cheap one. It was the 1990 Skybox, and it was a real super shiny, um, and it had amazing graphics in the background as well. It had like gold borders, futuristic looking graphic designs on the background. It was almost like cartoony, and the ball kind of looked like it did on NBA Jam when someone's on fire.
Oh,
Um,
awesome! Yeah.
and they looked these up, and they're basically worth nothing because there were so many printed, but they will always hold a special in my heart, a special place in my heart because I remember getting my first ever pack, and it was that pack, and I got a Sean Kemp card in it, and that was
Nice.
very, very exciting. I think it was the Skybox 1990 set. I think everybody had a pack because they were so cheap, and they were just trying to get rid of them because they printed so many of them. But that was probably my favorite one. Did anybody have a favorite?
I saw that you put this up in our little chat. It might surprise people, but we do some prep, very little, but some. And this was one of so I was saying I can't remember. Maybe Lucas might actually remember, but there was one series that had a rookie series with a big bold text of rookie as like a strap down the left hand
Left
side
hand side. Yep,
of
yep.
all the
Know it
I
well.
remember having quite a few of those, and I'm sure I had a Jason Kidd one of that.
Oh
I
yeah,
always really liked those with the big, bold rookie down the left-hand side.
I
and blue.
100% had that card.
See if I've got one here.
Yeah, he's
I
blocking.
was hoping I'd still have it, but I don't.
He's blocking Muggsy Bogues in the picture. He's I've just looked it up. He's blocking Muggsy Bogues in the picture, and Muggsy Bogues, predictably looks unbelievably tiny in it. But yeah, that's I definitely had that card, and I had lots of those rookie cards. Must have been a cheap set, Pat, if we had a lot of them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, if he's making that block, you still he's Muggsy's still got the one to pull over him is he wasn't on Space Jam. You can have
Yeah.
that block. I'll take Space Jam.
So one of the things I loved about cards, I think you both alluded to them, the stats on the back. That was so great. Like as a stats nerd, I really loved that, and I loved it when the stats showed their whole career because there was some cards where on the back you'd see their entire career stats, every single season. There were other cards that only show their last season compared with their career stats. I always preferred that stat. There was one season where Shaq shot like 50% from 3-point range, which he must have just shot two and made one. And I was used to amaze
Yeah.
people with that stat. Like I'd just put it to them. What do you think Shaq shot from 3-point line in the last season or something? And wow them with my knowledge.
Yeah.
You reckon it kind of Lucas alluded to it that it sort of swayed you on who you thought was good without actually watching? Oh, that's real good.
Lucas is
It's a
showing up
good table.
the back
Lucas
of the
has got
Tim
a
Hardaway
table of
card,
Tim Hardaway.
and it says that he's got his complete NBA record. And it says there's a key league leader in italics tie, which means he was the league leader, and that is in italics. And he played 82 plus games for the Warriors. And that says everyone, and sadly it also says that Tim Hardaway didn't play in the 93-94 season, injured, of course, that devastating knee injury that Tim Hardaway suffered. He was never the same since.
Killer crossover did it, didn't it?
I think it must have. Just one funny
Took
thing that
out both the Hardaways, didn't it? Knee injuries. Penny was the same.
Very true, actually. Good point. One thing there, a little funny little story about what you've just brought to my mind, Lucas. That's how it says league leader in italics. So that was on quite a few cards, right? Because so many times everyone played 82 games, right? So everyone was league leader. So what I thought as a 7 or 8-year-old that they had played a season in Italy, and they were like the league lead, the Italian league leader in that statistic. I didn't quite know what italics were at that point.
Yeah. Italian league.
Yeah, that would have got me too. I don't think I would have thought hard enough about it to even come up with an alternative like that. So
I studied those things like my life depends on it. I loved also like little tidbits like that 90 Skybox set. I had an Akeem Olajuwon card, not a Hakeem Olajuwon card. Before his conversion to Islam, and I always used to flash that card around for novelty's sake. Did you know that? And
that's very good.
At this point, no one was talking to me because I was so boring. But it was it was good fun. I think this was something that was sort of very seeming irrational now, but as a kid, we love collecting certain things. So I want to ask. We'll start with you, Pat, and then we'll go to you, Lucas. Pat, did you collect a certain player where there was someone you really loved and you want to collect that wasn't named Michael Jordan?
Yep. Already touched on him. Penny was my guy. Still is. And looking through this, like I said, I've found my folder moving some furniture before this pod, which was handy. And the most of any one player is definitely Anthony Hardaway, and it was remembered quite well in my family, obviously, because about 3 or 4 years ago, my brother bought me a signed rookie card of Penny Hardaway.
Nice.
That was nice. Yeah.
What about you, Lucas?
I just collected basically like the good players. Obviously, Jordan was number one. Everyone loved Jordan. I was a Bulls fan, so I collected Pippen, and I was a massive Supersonics fan, so Kemp and Payton were big with me. My brother was a Jazz fan, and he was Malone Stockton, so there was obviously heaps of arguments who was better. But yeah, it was like just main guys: Ewing, Olajuwon, Derek Coleman for some reason. Just like good players. Alonzo Mourning, fan favorites.
You would have been stocking up on a few Bill Wenningtons then?
Yeah, I had a lot of Bills. It was always a disappointment when you saw his name. The tax.
It's hard to express how ridiculous a bearded white guy was in the NBA in the 90s,
Yeah.
Like, Bill Wennington.
He wasn't your go-to as a create player.
He seemed like 48 years old to me when I was a kid. Like he seemed so old. Him and David Barnhill for the St. George Dragons seemed so old.
Yeah.
He's not who you wanted. For me, I'd like to say it was just because I happened to get a lot of these randomly. I didn't love this guy, but I just had a lot of David Robinson. I can't say I loved him more than anyone else necessarily, but I just happened to luck into a lot of the Admirals cards and had a lot of him. And one of my favourite cards was a David Robinson Predator card. It was this Hoops power set, and it was the same card for every player in the NBA. But I think they were like top 5 or top 10 in a certain statistical category, it would be a Hoops power Predator card, and Robinson was obviously top 10 in scoring. I also had a Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf Predator because he was such a good free throw percentage player. And that was always one of my favourite David Robinsons. And I also randomly had a lot of Clifford Robinson of the Portland Trailblazers.
He was good. I thought.
Yeah, love that headband. That was one of my favourites. Another less favourable category we're going to go into now. We did collect a lot of our favourite players. That obviously led to some very disappointing outcomes sometimes when you open up a card and got someone you didn't want. So, Lucas, I want to go to you first. Did you have a worst repeat card?
Yeah, definitely. A couple of people pop into mind. The first one is this coach here, Dick Motter, had this hoop set. I'd probably get about, I don't know, every second packet a Dick Motter. Just hated it. And the biggest one was, this only happened once, but it's burned in my memory. I was at Mark 1.
Yep.
They used to have this machine. It was like a vending machine where you put the $1 or $2 coin in like the slot, and then you like click it forward, and then 5 cards come out.
Yeah.
And one day I had my last dollar, put it in, and I was like, yes, here comes a Jordan, whatever. And 4 Vinny Del Negros came out in a row, and a clearance Weatherspoon that was bent at the time, so because they were like repacks, whatever. Yeah. It's Vinny Del Negro. I hate the guy.
Okay, Pat, you have to keep going. That slayed me too much.
Yeah, I don't really want to go on after that because he was absolutely killing it with that. But the one I kind of remember the most was also not actually a bad player, but I always used to get plenty of Marcus Camby.
Wow.
Don't know why, but I used to always have way too many of them. Just come up every pack. It's like, got 13 of these now. But that's the one that sticks in my head. I was like, he's not a bad player, but
You
just got so many of this right now.
Very random, very quick observation. You seem to have, for me, I must have stopped slightly earlier than you because these guys are quite sort of 96. I think Canby was in that very famous 96 draft class with like Steve Nash, Allen Iverson and stuff. So kudos to you, Pat, for sticking at it, post prime, as it were.
Yeah, I don't know if I hit 2000, but I might have.
Wow.
I would have kept going for a bit. I was definitely past the closure of the card stores in the hut.
God, that's impressive because they were very hard to source at that point, weren't they?
Yeah, you had to go to that weird store upstairs above Rebel Sports in town. Can't remember what it was called.
I remember Cam and I, Cam Paulock and I oft mentioned Cam Paulock. We went to the Northern Eagles versus the Warriors in 2001 at Ericsson. There was this rumour there was a card store still open in Auckland. So we went to some mall. Honestly, we can imagine us going on this escalator to the card store. And as soon as we hit the escalator, we saw like closed. It was real devastating. We mainly went to Auckland just so we could go to this card store. The league game was just a ruse and it was closed, so it was very hard to source at that time. I didn't really I don't have a Vinny Del Negro story of that quality. But I did get way too many Cherokee Parks. I had this terrible Cherokee Parks rookie card. He's like leaning on a ball, sort of like a David Brent type pose. It was real bad. And just in the Dick Motter mold. I think one of the reasons you did like gravitate towards basketball that they were such cool looking guys, and so superficial as a 9-year-old, and I would get a Bill Fitch coach card that was always real gutting. This elderly white guy sitting in a huddle was always real crap, and I had quite a few Bill Fitches. In fact, very odd that they even had coach cards, really.
Yeah. Back. Having said that, whenever I got a Pat
Riley, at the time, but I was about to say that. I was like, I reckon at the time I'd be gutted, but I'd quite like a Pat Riley card now, especially after watching that latest Lakers series that came out on Neon.
Yeah. Phil Jackson, he was another good one to get.
Phil Jackson.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I didn't.
I feel like you would appreciate them more now.
Yeah, I didn't mind a Lenny Wilkins coach card, to be fair. I didn't mind that, or the Pat Riley. It was just those like, Dick Fitch, Bill Fitch, Dick Motter, PJ Carlissimo. You're never too happy about getting those ones. Moving on to our next.
Yeah. The card that I have, it's the same series as that Motter one. Here is the slickest possible. It's got like half a can of like spray in it. It's so slick. It's real good.
That's good. Do they still do a coach card now? Like the new series? No?
Nah.
It's disappointing.
Yeah, Yeah, I definitely watched the Heat Celtics game today, and Riley was watching on in the crowd, slick as ever. Now just grey, but still slick back here. So Lucas
Still
alluded
looking
to.
great.
Oh, he looks great. Lucas alluded to one of the ways you could get cards earlier, but I think there were three ways in the 90s that you could get cards pretty much, right? There were packets of cards you could buy, there were the machines that Lucas said, and individually. So, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but you go into Mark 1 or Card Crazy, and there'd be like a glass counter, and on display on this glass counter were various cards for sale. And normally the packs were sort of against the wall on some shelving. Can anybody correct me on that? Because it was nearly 30 years ago now.
That's right. That's 100%
No,
right.
that's all ringing a bell. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, what was your preferred? What was your modus operandi when it came to that, Pat? How did you do it?
Well, first off, I've got one question. I saw this come up, and I'm guessing one of our 4 listeners might also be asking the same thing. Was Mark 1 and Card Crazy, were they in the same store? Did one take over the other, or were they a rebrand back in the old Queen's Arcade?
So Mark 1 was on a different location entirely.
Where was Mark 1 then?
Oh, was it by
Queen's
next
Maybe
to
only.
next to Hoyt's 5?
Ah,
Oh, what's that? Yes, so I remember Card Crazy.
yeah. So you go to Card Crazy in the Queen's Arcade, and then you go out towards the sports den. Well, the current sports den, not the old one.
Yeah.
And it was there. No, it would have been
Okay, yeah. I would have.
Yeah.
Or what, towards the BNZ end of Queen's Arcade, or
Toward Simon had it right. Next to would have been Hoyt's now.
Oh, okay, yeah, back out that way. Okay,
separate
yeah. So I
entities.
definitely would have been a Card Crazy.
Mark 1 was definitely on the Wainui side, like the eastern side of the road, like that Wainui side of the road.
Right.
Yep.
And I think it was bigger as well, right? I think Mark 1 was a bigger store, and I think it had more stuff in it. Like Card Crazy, from my memory, was pretty much only sports cards, whereas Mark 1 was just sports cards and various other geeky stuff as well, I think.
Comics.
Yeah.
Comics.
So I definitely don't remember Mark 1 as well, but I remember of Mark 1. But so I was definitely a Card Crazy guy, and then when they shut down, I think Sports Den, which was basically opposite in those days, got that machine that you were talking about, I think, Lucas, where you the coin operated dealio there ended up in Sports Den. So I remember also getting cards from there.
Yeah, I preferred Card Crazy as well, just because it was just all about basketball cards. Not that I loathed Mark 1, obviously. Definitely went to both, but yeah, I probably preferred Card Crazy because it was just cards. Lucas?
Yeah, definitely. When I was in Lower Hutt, the round would be go to Card Crazy first, see what they had, potentially buy a pack, look at the glass case, which I never bought anything from the glass case. I only buy packs. And then after that, go to Mark 1 and just see what they had. That's when I was in Lower Hutt. In Napier, when I'd go to the school holidays, they had a Mark 1 there. And I'd go there and it was the same sort of thing, but there were less comics and more sports cards there. And they had this guy behind the counter, Rory. He was like the manager, long hair, gum chewer, and he knew everything there is to know about nerd stuff, comics, sports cards. And I used to just talk to him and buy off him. So I liked both, but Card Crazy, I guess, was my favorite in the hut.
So I think, so I think I bought one card ever individually. I did buy a 76ers team basketball card. They had sort of cards that were just the team logo often, or in the older sets, just a team photo. I remember arrogantly placing 20 cents on the counter at Card Crazy and asked them for a 76ers team card. And the woman just like looked at me real strange and like reluctantly pulled it out. And as I was walking out, she's like, "Oh, it's actually 50 cents, but you can have it." Because
Yeah,
I had no idea what I was doing.
I'm the same. I still remember the one card I got out of the glass casing. It was a Shaq card that came in one of those hard plastic one card storage options.
Oh, that's nice. That's flash. That's real flash.
I don't think I've got it anymore looking through this folder.
So it sounds like we're always packs, basically. The trio here, we're just basically packs.
Yep, definitely.
You couldn't beat it, right? That feeling of that glistening, unopened pack that represented endless possibilities was just... there's not many more exciting things for an 8-year-old.
Oh, it's basically your introduction to gambling, which didn't happen for another 2 to 3 years.
Great point. Great point. That is such a good point. So, Pat, you mentioned earlier about the plastic casing that you got, and there were kind of three. You put this on our chat, Pat, so you can correct me if I'm wrong here. So there was the sleeve, of course, the 9 with the 9 slots for basketball cards. There was it was like Pat's holding up his sleeve with various rookie cards in it. There were like a plastic. What was the plastic casing, Pat, that you're referring to? There was like a real hard one and a soft one, right?
So you could get the hard one that was like a one card clip together type solution, which is I forked out my savings from chores to buy that Shaq one, and then couldn't help myself but continuously take it out of the packet till it really rubbed up. But and then you had the single sleeve one card option that you'd also sometimes double up, so you'd put it in the one card solution and then put it in your 9 card sleeve.
Yep.
And then I don't know really how to describe the one that was might have been a 50 card sort of hard cased slide together dealio as well. Those are the ones that I remember.
Yeah.
But I remember having like at least one of each. That's it.
Lucas has got
There
the very
you go.
container. The very container.
I had one of those. I had 2 of those inside.
Vinny Del Negro. There it is. The Vinny Del Negro card. You just pulled it out.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's growing up in value as we talk about it. But I had 2 of those cases that fit together in that fashion inside a box that went like that. It was like a Whittaker's chocolate box, but it also was the same fashion, so I liked having my cards in that.
I recall our sleeves. There were 2 different sleeves. I remember one had on the left-hand side had this sort of shimmery, silvery sort of thing on it. And there were even more expensive ones that had like Card Crazy stamped onto that silvery, shimmery thing.
Oh, yes.
And there were also folders that you'd have. So Lucas is holding up a Card Crazy logoed folder.
Oh, that's good.
Speak. But my parents would never fork out for that folder. And because they're both school teachers, they're just get old folders from like old folders from their school. Would have to hole punch the basketball card sleeve so it fit into the folder. It's very embarrassing.
Yep. I did the exact same thing as you. You got those the free hole punch sleeves, and then you're like, well, I have to get a folder for it. And your parents are like, we've already got a folder and a hole punch. Use that. I'm dealing to the bloody, what do you call it? Is it ultra flare holographic logo? Damaging the value already.
Anything to add on that one? You mainly a sleeve guy, Lucas?
Yeah, I had. There's another one. I had plenty of folders and cases and those plastic ones. These days you have what is called a one touch, and it just slides in. It's like a little soft plastic. and they basically, and you get mag ones. A mate of mine, Shane Jackson, big card collector. He used to have this Grant Hill gold card that he kept in like this. It was like double the size of every other case, and it had screws in it, like it was the real deal. It was unbelievable. That was like over $100 that Grant Hill card.
Wow.
That was
Yeah,
big
Grant.
money
I
back
was a big Grant Hill fan as well. I had plenty of Grant Hill cards, and then back in the day, possibly even played with or against you, Simon, when mini ball was a thing in Taita. I remember donning a set of fake Grant Hill feelers.
Yeah, it was really another. Just talking about basketball in general here, another 18 to 20 years before basketball went full renaissance again, sort of globally and in New Zealand, I'd say, because it was huge in 95, 96 for across all schools pretty much. And I think basketball cards had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it was cards. A little bit of PlayStation became a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and Sky became a little bit more popular, and there was a lot of basketball on Sky. But I remember it being quite big. Like, we're the only generation that think that the Magic are good, because it was 2 years there where they were when they first burst on the scene, and it was
Yeah.
in the 90s.
And I think you can't underestimate the power of Michael Jordan as well, right? Like, I think that was a huge, like, just the one man power that Michael Jordan was. He was his own, orbit almost in the world. He was so powerful, and I think he made. I remember some kid coming from Australia and first basketball game on the courts at Batoni Central, he was like sticking his tongue out like Jordan. We all made fun of him, but we all kind of wanted to do it as well.
Yeah, Jordan was massive. I think another thing, another shop that was so really important, especially in Lower Hutt, was Lifestyle Sports in Lower Hutt. It was opposite Queensgate at the time, and Kenny McFadden or someone was working there at one point, and I used to go in and buy $48 starter hats somehow. I don't know. I've still got a few. And McFadden would be there, and you'd like clap his hand, like he's like real tall, and that was huge for my basketball like interest, I reckon, at the time.
Yeah, that was a bit of a mecca. You'd go in there, and it was really the only place at that time you could get NBA singlets. I think I don't remember Sports Den having them.
No.
They had all the starter jackets as well, so you'd go to peruse those, and then just wish for them, because you could see the price tag as well.
Yeah, I definitely remember not going in there much because it would just lead to disappointment. Like, I just knew that it was just a forbidden fruit, but just stick to basketball cards because they were way cheaper. I remember I did get it when Shaq was traded to the Lakers. I was always a Lakers fan pre-Shaq, and because of basketball cards and like the odd VHS, I was a big Nick Van Exel, Cedric Ceballos, George Lynch, Eddie Jones, and then when Shaq got traded to them, that's when I finally decided to save up for like a year to buy Shaq Lakers singlet starter.
And shorts.
Lakers shorts, yeah.
Still fit you to this day.
Still got them in the wardrobe. Don't worry about that. Still look brand new.
Still in rotation?
Actually, no, but there's no reason they shouldn't be in the rotation. No pockets. No pockets is troubling, but apart from that, they're a great pair of shorts.
In high school, they were like to your ankles.
Yeah, they're definitely still the same because they have not grown since then. Which is why you can only really wear them in the comfort and privacy of your own home. I remember getting ripped off a lot, to be honest with you guys. I never had one of those valuing magazines. Remember, there was those valuing magazines, and you'd look through and had the Skybox 94, 95, and they'd tell you that your rookie card that you thought was worth lots was worth 20 cents. So I never really
sell them at New World.
Did they sell them at New World?
Yeah. I remember getting one at New World.
Were you guys consider yourselves ripped off, or were you the ones doing the ripping off of innocent school children?
Oh, I definitely ripped a few kids off at a primary school, Dye Street School. I had the Card Crazy magazines and Beckett magazines that would give the value. But you see that I brought up my brother's friend Shane Jackson earlier. He definitely ripped me off a couple of times.
Sponsoring this podcast today.
Yeah, he was.
Podcast brought to you by Sports Den.
Yeah, I kind of didn't like trading too much. It took me heaps of coercion to get off my cards that I'd got in the pack. So I didn't really do too much trading other than ripping people, not ripping people off, but taking advantage of cards that they didn't want.
That's one of the great euphemisms. Not ripping people off, just taking advantage of people.
Yeah, no, you sound. Yeah. No, you're definitely on the right side of it there. Most of my trading was done between myself, my brother, and my cousin, who were both older and probably a hell of a lot more intelligent. But that's no real mean feat. So I remember getting done over a lot with the old. Well, I'll give you 10 of these for that one. Being, probably how I ended up with so many Marcus Cambies, to be fair. I'd have been giving those away. Maybe that's why I can't find that Jason Kidd rookie card. Probably gave it away for 10 Marcus Cambies. But I was always, especially with my brother and my cousin as well, I was always a bit younger, so I always just wanted to trade more than trying to actually get anything out of it. So I just wanted the trade to continue. So I definitely got dealt to. Maybe that's why I stuck around and did it through the late 90s and possibly. I'm not sure if I made it 2000, but a lot of my cards are probably 97ish.
Yeah. My latest card was a Tim Duncan, who debuted. I think it was 98, 99, maybe 97, 98. So I think that was when I stopped. But no, I was definitely ripped off more than ripping people off. I'll give you this delicious almond Gilliam for your crummy old Alonzo Mourning or something, and took the bait every time. And I remember very vividly going to this has scarred me. Went to a friend's house. I'm doing quotations here with my cards, so we could just look at each other's cards and whatnot. And having about 7 Michael Jordans or 8 Michael Jordans in my collection, and then coming home and there were 3 Michael Jordans in my collection by the time I got home. Got to the toilet and all of a sudden I had 4 less Michael Jordans in my collection. So I think that was now that I look back as a teacher, I think at primary schools there would have been so much theft of basketball cards going on. I think I've got vague memories of that actually happening in schools.
Yeah, but I remember that with a lot of different sort of collector's items, especially around primary school. They would always get the fight chant going. Bit of theft, or an accusation at least. Maybe you just left it at home. Anyway, let's move on.
I don't think my parents let me actually take anything big to school. They 1 or 2 cards maybe. They're very worried about stuff being stolen. Lucas, you have continued. So you stopped collecting for a bit, or you have gone consistently through. And tell us about what you collect now, card wise, and how much have the cards changed? Have they changed lots, or are they kind of looking pretty similar to what they used to look like?
Yeah, I stopped probably in about 2000, and then had a couple more goes at it. 2010 maybe 2011, but then pandemic hit. It was a couple of years ago now, and that's when I got back into collecting. NBA cards. It's far different as an adult now. Back in the day, like if you opened a single packet and you got a base or a Michael Jordan, it'd make your day. But now base cards are just absolutely worthless. They are back then as well, but no one wants them. And generally, a lot of the collecting nowadays, because they're so expensive, these cards, is they're done by breaks. So how that works is like there's a breaker, you have an expensive box of cards, and people pay in to that. So they'll pay in to get all the Bulls cards in that break or this whatever. And then the breaker opens it, and then you get all the Bulls ones. And it's definitely not. It's different, and it's not as fun. So I just basically nowadays I just buy the odd single card that I want, and mainly just I collect soccer cards now. So it's the odd autograph legend at the basketball. So definitely not as fun now.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like still that similar lure though, right? Like are you still opening those packs in a way, and you've got all a certain team or whatever, which definitely sounds, as Pat alluded to, a form of gambling in a less damaging way, which is always pretty fun.
Yeah, because like I said, when the pandemic hit, you couldn't go out at all.
Yeah,
there was no sports on, so people started collecting them again, and it was kind of like something to do. So it came back in a massive way over the last couple of years.
I think it sounds like kids are collecting them again now as well, which is awesome, because I definitely, even though we spent shitloads of money, really, considering how young we were, and how they're probably worth basically nothing. It's not one of those things you look back on and think, oh, that was a waste of time. There was definitely a lot of joy, I think, that you got from it as well. I definitely remember getting a lot of joy, and definitely cemented like a lifelong love of basketball for me, which is cool. Anything to add, Pat?
We've summed up collecting in the 90s pretty well, especially we made it pretty local in the Hutt Valley with the Queen's Arcade references, but
I'm sure lots of people overseas would love
it's quite interesting the way it sort of swayed your opinion on the sport as well. I think a lot of the PlayStation games probably did the same thing as well. You're looking at player ratings and you're like, oh, okay, so that player's good, so you think they're good in real life, and probably similar to the card collecting with all the stats in the back. But no, great stuff.
To add to that, the swaying, the stats did tell a story, but how you look back and you realise like Dominique Wilkins was an unbelievable scorer and just basically refused to play defence, and you just sort of, and Dominique Wilkins was amazing, but the cards didn't really tell the full story in that regard. But yeah, I used to love Dominique Wilkins, and I think one of the great tidbits about him was if you looked at, they were where they were born, if you remember, they had a lot of the cards, and Dominique Wilkins was Paris, France. Was always a good little tidbit about him. And the other one that I liked was Rex Chapman was born in a place called Bowling Green in Kentucky, which I always thought was hilarious. And Tony Kukoc was born in Split in Croatia, which of course now I know is just a standard city, but back then a name like Split was always very funny.
Yep, I've been to Split. I almost died there, almost lost my leg there, but that's a story for another time.
What about yourself, Goody? Have you got anything to sum up, or anything else?
Yeah, nothing really. So I think we know the most about. There's a couple of fun facts I've got. Does anyone know of the NBA Hoops 1990 Mark Jackson card?
I do not. I'm typing into it now, but go for it. Tell us.
Have a look. I've
got a few
of them. Was that?
Have a look at home if you're listening.
Yeah. So if you search that, and you'll see the two boys to the right of Mark Jackson in the front row. One of them's got a hat on.
Yep.
So the Mendes brothers. They're the two brothers who killed their parents, and I believe they killed their parents, and then they went to this Knicks game at night. And they're filmed in, or they're taken in that card. So that's
Oh my
a
God.
pretty cool one.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
How good! I can't believe I didn't know anything about that. I'm such a card / basketball nerd, and I've never heard that story.
Yeah, it's a because if you look at them, they look pretty calm and collected.
Yeah.
Another couple of things is Card Crazy and Mark One are still alive and they're still trading online. So
What?
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
I need to look that up. Oh, shout out to Card Crazy.
I'm sure I had that card as well, that Mark Jackson card.
You probably did. It was a common card, and then that came to light not too long ago that it was Mendes brothers, and on eBay that
2018.
card just blew up, and like it was selling for heaps for some reason. Now it's calmed down a bit. So
Yeah, I just read that it was selling for 15 to 20 cents, and then sort of a day later, when people realised $15 to $20.
yeah, I think it got up to 100 at one point, which is crazy.
Wow.
Well, what kind of impact did The Last Dance have on the 90s card scene? Well, specifically Michael Jordan.
Huge. Jordan is like traditionally Jordan's cards have always been up. They haven't really gone down. There's but yeah, Jordan's cards went flying high. If you look at I don't know eBay, the 86 Jordan rookie or something, that's graded in the hundreds of thousands of dollar cards, but they just exploded when that documentary came out. Definitely. I know a friend that I may or may not have mentioned earlier, Shane Jackson. He funded a new pinball machine on a lot of the Jordan cards he sold over that pandemic. It was around 20 grand. So yeah,
Wow.
there's a lot of buyers out there.
Yeah, I've got a brother that I may or may not have mentioned that he had a theory about 7 years ago that he was talking to his wife actually is her granddad about why he started collecting art. So because her granddad made a lot of money through art, and he just said, I thought of things that people my age wanted now but couldn't afford it. And that's why he bought art. And at that time, my brother bought, I think, either 3 or 4 Michael Jordan rookie cards.
Wow.
So he's holding on to them.
Wise
It's
investment.
a good piece of advice there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Check
That's
out
great.
his address. So if anyone wants to go steal them or no.
Hey. I'm owed a few Jordans, as you know. So don't tell me the address.
You would.
All right, lads, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I could probably talk on the subject for a lot longer, but everyone will just stop listening at some point. So big thanks to Lucas for coming on today and sharing your knowledge, and we'll have you on again shortly. I know Lucas is also a big Simpsons fan, so I'll have to get you on for one of those.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for allowing me on.
Absolutely. Check out our Instagram, WIWT90s, for any updates. Is that right, Pat?
I have no idea. Neither of us know.
You've probably already subscribed anyway if I stuffed that up. So have a good night, guys, and hopefully we've inspired you to buy another basketball pack or two online. Cheers.
Outstanding.
Cheers.